This episode has been brought to you by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
So, surprisingly enough, Ocasio did something that I have been talking about for quite some time, which is obviously validated because of the outcome of the election, which is the fact that polls are not really good indicators of what the country wants. There's the reality of the fact that you just can't ask every single person what they want on a given issue, especially, and then assume that their minds won't change tomorrow. Then there's also the reality that people use polls to manipulate outcomes. In fact, I did study polling analysis in college, and that was one of the first things that we were taught, is that you need to approach every poll, especially a political poll, you have to approach them with scrutiny. And the reason why is because who can pay for the poll? That's a big part of it. Why did they choose their samples? Who is actually not going to be affected by the judgment that could come from their answer? There's a psychological component to polling analysis. So, for example, we can look at the election, right? They said, well, we thought that all the polls said that Hillary Clinton had a 99% chance of winning. There was a lot of Trump shaming going on. And so when you have to sit in a room or answer a phone call and you don't want to be judged, you feel like this, this isn't going to get out, but you still feel like it could. Are you going to say that you unequivocally, have this unadulterated love for Trump because he just spoke to you and you're part of that silent majority? No. Because you don't want to be judged. You don't want it to come back and bite you. You didn't know how he was going to do, but you did know you wanted something different. And so that was good enough for you because Hillary Clinton was just that bad. Imagine being a woman and being asked that question, and maybe you even consider yourself a liberal, but you still felt like you weren't going to vote for Hillary. You couldn't say Jill Stein. So you felt like you just had to say Hillary instead of Jill Stein or Trump. There's a lot of flaws when it comes to polling, and a lot of people don't know there's a lot of internal polling done politically. They don't release those polls oftentimes. The Dems did an internal poll that I reported on a while ago, and it showed that Trump was in some areas 60% favorability amongst Republicans and Democrats. He increased his favorability. And if it came down to the election right now, if he were to run again against anybody else outside of Bernie Sanders and perhaps Tulsi Gabbard, but they're trying not to include her in the polling. But Bernie Sanders right now is the only one that even has a legitimate chance. And now it is even looking like they don't know if he will win because of the accountability aspect. Trump has been doing a great job bringing a lot of the corruption into the spotlight where other presidents could not have, and I know for a fact would not have. So that's very respected in a country that right now doesn't know who they can trust. But if you call these polling out and you talk about the flawed approach of polling, oftentimes you're called a sore loser. They said that, they said Bernie Sanders was not ahead of Hillary Clinton. They said that Hillary Clinton was beating Bernie by like 20 points in Michigan. You saw how that turned out. But polling is used to sway public opinion. So listen really quickly to Ocasio's analysis of polling.
Welcome to the show. I want to confess that I did not know your name on Monday.
Most people didn't.
But what is it like for you? Because it's your first election. Yeah. You unseated a 10-term congressman, Crowley, who many people had thrown out his name as the possible heir apparent for Nancy Pelosi's number 4 Democrat. 3 weeks before the election, the polls showed you 36 points behind him, and you won by 15 points. Yeah. That's 51. That's a 51.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you're a very capable, intelligent person. Why do you think you were able to swing 51 points in 3 weeks and unseat this man who'd been there for 20 years?
Well, I think the first thing to kind of mention is that I don't think polling is always right.
We learned that in 2016. We learned that in 2016,
You know,
yes.
polling, here's the big thing. Polling, people try to identify who is the most likely person to turn out. And what we did is that we changed who turns out. And that changes the whole electorate.
Well, who turned out? Who doesn't turn out? Who doesn't turn out, especially for Democratic primaries? And who turned out for you? Who are your constituents?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We were about 8 minutes till the polls were closing, and I was in my home neighborhood in the Bronx, and these two young, oh yeah, BX, we got any BX out here? And it was 8 minutes till the polls closed, and these two, like, teenage-looking kids came up to me and was like, "We just voted for you." And I was like, "How old are you?" And they're like, 19. And I was like, "Oh, 19 years old voting in an off-year midterm primary election?"
Yeah. She won, by the way. I don't know if you know that. That's what's so impressive to me about it. When people win, they don't really address infrastructural issues with how we determine, you know, if someone actually lost or someone actually won, or if they will win or if they will lose. Polling is flawed. Exit polling was actually accurate, then they got rid of it. But like she said, they said that she was, what, down by 20 or 30 points? And she wins by like 15 with like a 3 to 4% margin of error? Come on. That means she was never down by 30 or 40 points. And the fact, her response was just brilliant, right? Her response is, polling is decided. They use the people that they think are likely to vote. She wants to go after the people that aren't likely to vote. Because usually those are the ones who are most affected by policy and are, when they have a chance, especially in that area, when they have a chance to see legitimate change, they will pursue it if they believe in you. So, fantastic response. I'm so incredibly happy that after she won, she still addresses the fact that polling is flawed. You can't believe everything you hear. I understand it's like a pragmatic mechanism that you need polling, but maybe only to get a feel for where you're at. But as they say in the Bronx, or in pretty much any borough in New York, you got to keep your ear to the streets, because that'll really let you know how you are doing. She talks about the fact that a 19-year-old kid walks up and says, "I voted for you." You think they called that 19-year-old kid's cell phone? You think that Crowley was expecting 19-year-olds in the Bronx to get out and vote in the off year during the midterm elections? This was inspiring. And I truly, truly hope to see her keep talking more about the flaws in this system, the flaws in the Democratic Party, the flaws in the Republican Party, and really pushing the progressive platform that she has put forward. They've put her on a lot of television recently. They've given her a lot of interviews. And she has knocked every single one of them out of the park. They keep trying to dictate her message, and she will not let them. So, I'm excited to see if this is going to keep up. It looks like that, you know, we have some hope. And I hope that her election and her victory does inspire other millennials to run and win. Notice she didn't spend a lot of time in front of the camera before she got into office or before she won her Democratic primary. She didn't spend a lot of time in front of the camera. Why do you think that is? She was knocking on doors. I'm telling you, all of us reached out to her. All of us. She was knocking on doors, knocking on doors. What's she doing still? Knocking on doors. Where's she at? On the streets, knocking on doors. And when 19-year-olds are showing out on an off year to go vote in one of the most important primary races of the country, it shows. That's exactly what she was doing. So I have a lot of respect for her for that. She wasn't about grandstanding. It wasn't for herself. She really wanted to change that district, New York, and the country. It's pretty inspiring. Thanks for tuning into that segment of Mikai Says Su Casa. Make sure that you subscribe. If you can, support the network by going to our Patreon link, which you can find in the description below. Also, join us on JustNForm. But remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.